Good morning. Sorry to interrupt. I can't hear you, Chip. Is anybody else having that issue?
Yeah, I can't hear either.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Got it. Sorry about that. So all the amazing things I just said, the best things I've ever said in my 25-year career, in the last 2 minutes you didn't hear?
We'll just-
No.
We'll just act like we heard them.
Well, damn, now I gotta figure out what I said and say it again. Oh, good lord. See, I had to switch technology platforms too quick from one call to the next, back to back. All right, I shall start again. I appreciate your patience. All right, gang, so. Damn, that was good stuff too. All right, here we go. I've got a report from MLS and it's called the Real Estate Trend Indicator Report. You know me, I'm a fan of one-page reports. This is a one-pager. What I've asked for in this report is I want residential properties year-to-date, Mecklenburg County. That's it. That's what I put into this one. What I like about this report is that it breaks down all the sold listings. So I get the totals on everything. So for example, we have sold 13,203 units, residential units closed year to date in Mecklenburg County. Out of those units, it gives me a breakdown. It breaks it down into price point ranges and it breaks it down into bedroom count. For example, less than 2, 3 bedrooms or 4+. Also, under the price point categories, it breaks it down into, in that price range, how many actives, how many pendings, how many expireds, how many off market. So on the total units, again, that we have closed, residential units, Mecklenburg County, 13,203 units. The average price year to date, 610,587. It's a pretty decent average now for Mecklenburg County. Worth over $8 billion in closed real estate value year to date. Interesting enough, on the expired listings, year to date, 1,067 expired listings worth almost $600 million. I'm sorry, worth over the value, or at least the listed price, it's over $600 million, $633 million, with an average price of $594,000. So less than the average price of the closed. That's the first time I'm starting to see that number show up. Usually that's above the closed price. On the pending side, we have 1,838 pending units with an average price of about $650. And active, there are almost 3,800 units with an average price of about $697. All right, so that's that. Now here's some other things this report tells us. And at the bottom of this report, of the closed units, it breaks everything down into days on market for those that successfully closed. So for example, out of the 13,000 closed units, about 7,900 of those were on the market 0 to 30 days. So 30 days or less. Then there were about 2,100 units that were on the market 31 to 60 days. And then there was almost another 1,200 units that were on the market 61 to 90. So when we add those three categories up, that's a little over 11,000 of the 13,000 units that closed were on the market 90 days or less. Now here's the cool thing of why, again, I like these one-page reports. This information tells to me a pretty amazing story about how our market is, another version, another look of telling the story of how our market has performed year to date, at least residential properties in Mecklenburg County. Okay, there's a lot of interesting information in here. There's some other information that this tells us. For example, it breaks down of the closed units. It breaks it down by how they were bought. How did the buyer pay for it? So of course, I would assume if I asked you guys the question, what do you think the #1 method of paying for these homes was? You would probably say a mortgage. Correct. What type of mortgage?
Conventional?
Conventional. 8,745 of those 13,000 units were financed would be a conventional mortgage. What do you think number two is?
Cash.
Cash. Cash is number two. 2,506 of the 13,000 units were paid for with cash. What do you think number three is?
FHA,
FHA. Did you have the list up, Sharon? Or who's saying that?
Teresa.
Teresa, do you have the list up?
No, I just know how many FHA loans we're doing right now.
No,
Love it.
I read an article too yesterday or the day before about the cash, so.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I'm gonna get back to cash in just a second, but Teresa, you're right. So FHA, 1194 of the units were FHA. Okay, now it's gonna get trickier, maybe. What do you think number four is?
VA,
VA is number four. 441 of the 13,000 units were purchased via VA financing. Ironically, number five, I don't know what this category really means. It just simply says other, were 154 units. The next one after that was construction to perm loans. That was 53.
Chip, I think that takes in all your DSCR, equity lines, those type, anything that's not conventional or.
Anything
government.
non-conform? Yeah, okay,
Yes,
got it. Well, it's funny, they do have a non-conforming in here category, and that says 51. But you're right, it could be the DSCRs and that kind of stuff.
yeah, those loans aren't all coded the same when they go through, so it's probably hard for that system to pick up. What they
Yeah,
really
yeah,
are.
well, and ultimately too, this data will be as accurate as the list agent puts it in when they close the listing in MLS.
Mhm.
All right, so the point of it is, we've got some interesting things here. I want to come back to cash for a minute because 2,500 of the 13,000 purchases were cash. That math equates to roughly about what? Well, 10% would be 1,300, so about 20%. 1 out of 5 are of the purchases so far this year in Mecklenburg County were paid for with cash. What does that tell you? I mean, let's talk about that for a minute. Who is the cash buyer out there?
This is a guess, but I think people taking the equity out of their homes.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's probably equity-driven conversations. Think about this, guys. We are the market where a lot of people are moving to, right? So they're coming from somewhere else. And if we start thinking about what other parts of the country where people are moving from, they could be sitting on a lot of equity when they sell their home in the other location. That equity flows down here, and if the average price is 610, that's about what the average, well, it's a little bit higher than what the average equity in a home is these days. But think about it. Again, somebody that closes on a home in like somewhere up in the Northeast, and they, after closing they're walking out with 1.2 million in equity, they can come down here and easily pay 600,000 for a house. Average price. And they still got money in their pocket.
We're
So
seeing a ton
us-
of people that have parents, grandparents that are pulling out cash from
Yeah.
their end and giving them to buy the house, and then they're coming back to get the mortgage with delayed financing.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Love that one. Point of it is, guys, here's the bottom line. We know there's a lot of equity in the market. I think it was last week's call, I was talking about the amount of mortgages that are out there right now where we think, or at least some of the, maybe the people we're talking to think, well, yeah, nobody wants to list their house because nobody wants to give up a 4% or less rate. The reality of it is that's only 20% of the mortgage holders have that rate now. Equity to me is becoming the bigger conversation more so than interest rates. Because a lot of those people that had those lower rates are giving them up to move forward to do something else because they're either selling or they're doing something else with their equity. And they're putting it into play like this, or like Teresa said, right? Even parents might be pulling equity out of a property, giving it to a family member to buy a house. Or they're buying it in their name or however they're structuring it. I bring this up because there's two things about cash. I think too often, I don't think we're hearing this as much anymore, but a year ago, we were still kind of hearing this a little bit. or some consumers were blaming REITs and some of the big, like institutional single home buyers out there, they were blaming them for the reason why there was no inventory. Like I can't compete with those kind of buyers. That's not who's buying these homes. That's not what this cash purchase is. If they were buying those, if they were still that active of buying this much inventory in the market like they were 10, 12, 13 years ago, this would be a much different story on these cash purchases. We would see a much higher percentage. We'd see more homes sold, but we'd see a higher percentage that were being purchased with cash. So that's not the reason why buyers can't compete. Now, buyers, it is a different market now. Buyers can compete a lot easier this year than they could last year. Not saying there's not multiple offer situations, because there are. Certain price points, certain areas, properties priced where it should be to the market, it can still attract a lot of great buyers and multiple buyers at a single time. That can still happen. Use this information to position your buyers into the market as the market's performing, because to me, there's a lot of things in this report that would simply be able to demonstrate a different story to what the buyer's perception of the market is. There's also a lot of information in here we could use that would demonstrate a little bit different market than what some of the sellers think as well. Again, here's a one-pager. Hey, Teresa, while you're on, if you got a sec, I find this interesting. FHA 203Ks. Actually, we did have some properties in Mecklenburg County that were purchased using that program. Do you guys do a lot of those or see any kind of interest in those in that program?
We do them, and the interest is coming in more than it has in years, like getting asked questions about doing them.
Yeah, that might be a great thing for us to talk about, like how that program works. You may have done it in the past recently, before I kind of got active here in the market center again. But I think that that's an understated program that a lot of buyers don't know about that could help you guys help some buyers generate some sales. Now there's some rules of engagement with it. I've had buyers in the past that have used it and absolutely love the program. I know things change over time, but Teresa, maybe that would be a great one to kind of bring into Lunch and Learn or something like that.
Yeah, it's a great idea. We'll set it up for our next one. Thank you.
Yeah, now ironically, there were only 2 units so far this year that have sold. A lot of that, of course, is going to be based on price, but it's there. It's there as an option. It's there as a product.
Yeah, I think it would be a great thing for us as agents and even other agents. I have a coaching client that she has the listing and the buyer is using that type of loan right now. So there was a lot of questions around that on that side.
Yeah, it is a really great program. I just don't think a lot of people understand how it works, or how they can apply it to maybe their situation, but it can go a long way to getting some buyers off the fence too. Now, probably not in Mecklenburg, but surrounding, probably see some more opportunities that way. All right, so how do I get here? How do I get to this real estate trend indicator report? So when you go into Matrix, and you open that part of it up, over to the very right at the top, it says more. You click on more. Halfway down the list, it says market reports. You click on market reports, and then you're going to see 5 different report options. The middle one, the third one down the list, is real estate trend indicator. So when you click on that, you can pull in whatever dates you want. You can pull in the property type. You can do a property subtype. You can now break this down. I did it for the county. We can break it down for subdivision, city, zip code, county, whatever it is you would like to do. You can look at this same type of report down to whatever type of criteria you want to look at. All right, so use it with your buyer presentations, use it in your seller presentations. Again, send this out monthly. Do one once a month and send it out to your database. Another report that I like, so that's the trend indicator. In the same category of these reports, at the top, there's something called inventory counts. And it's almost looks like the same thing. You can set it up by your start date, end date, property type, subdivisions, all those wonderful things. I'm gonna pull this real quick and generate this report, just so we can kind of have some talking points around it real quick. It's gonna be similar type information. It's a setup, this one's set up a little bit different. But what this one starts telling us and showing us, it's breaking everything down now into the categories of active, closed, coming soon, expired, temporary off the market, both under contract categories, and withdrawn. So it breaks everything down specifically. Again, you can match it up to your time frame, your area, your property type. So for example, Mecklenburg County, so far this month, I just did one for just November. We have already closed, and today is the 5th. We've already closed 131 units this month in Mecklenburg County. There's 166 active. There are almost 160 under contract. 97 expired, 47 withdrawn. Coming soon, no show, 56. And then it's got, you know, the count, it's got the total price, the average price, and the average days on market. So on the closed properties so far, Mecklenburg County, the month of November was 131 that have closed. The average days on market was 45. So it'll give you the breakdown by category. Then it also kind of totals everything. So that there again, you can look at it based on, you know, for example, the average price, the total volume or value of all the categories combined, the average days on market total, all of that stuff is in there. This could be another great, real quick, one pager, talking point stimulator, whatever you want it, however you want to use it, just to get the fact out that you know the market, you understand the market, and you've got a lot of simple, easy, visible ways for people to see the market. Okay. All right, that's what I wanted to give you guys this week. Those two specific reports. There's a lot of great information in there. Thoughts, comments, questions, ahas, how can I best help you? Nathan, I swear every time I see him, man, that beard's getting bigger.
Yes, you know, it's Christmas time, so it gets a little extra growth.
Yeah, love it.
I think that it's just important to go over the data as much as you can because it's always constantly changing. And you know, I mean, really at the end of the day, the clients probably can get inundated if you throw too much info at them, but just kind of trying to break it down into manageable pieces is where I try and lean to.
Simple, keep it simple. Again, that's why I'm a fan of the one pager reports. Loaded with information. The first report that I mentioned earlier, and I couldn't share screen today, I apologize. But if you pull that up and you sent that out, man, it can create, it gives a lot of great information, but it also creates a lot of questions that are great. Because here's what I want. If somebody has a question about something I'm putting out there, I want them to call me. I want them to initiate a conversation with me so that I can help explain what it is, not just simply answer the question, but explain at a deeper level what all this stuff means. It shows value. All right, what else? Teresa, thank you. Thank you for being on today. Thank you for the willingness to talk about that 403K.
Absolutely.
Great
We'll set up
product.
lunch and learn, so stay tuned.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Great product, great product. All right, gang, again, apologize. We had to move it from Monday. I had a personal conflict in the schedule. I just could not move Monday. It was very last minute. Appreciate you guys being on today. As always, anything I can help with, please ask. We're here to help, and we'll talk to everybody soon. Bye, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Chip.
Appreciate you.